The sweltering sun beat down on the muddy banks of the river as the air buzzed with cicadas and distant bird calls. It was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon for the small group of friends who had gathered near the old dock at the edge of Clearwater Swamp, just outside of town. Children were skipping rocks, the older boys were fishing, and in the shade of a towering oak tree lay Max, a magnificent German shepherd with thick sable fur and intelligent amber eyes. Max was more than just a dog. To his owner, Daniel, he was family, a companion who had stood by his side through years of ups and downs. To the others, he was a guardian, a creature whose keen instincts often kept them safe on their adventures through the untamed wilds that bordered their neighborhood. Max had once chased off a snake that slithered too close to a picnic, and another time he alerted them when a wild hog charged through the underbrush. Everyone trusted Max. Everyone loved him. But fate, in the form of something far larger and far deadlier than any snake or hog, was about to test them all. It began innocently enough. Daniel tossed a stick into the shallows of the swamp, and Max bounded after it, splashing into the water with a happy bark. He retrieved it and trotted back, tail wagging, as everyone laughed. Daniel, proud, scratched behind his ears. The game continued, stick after stick, until Daniel threw one just a little farther than usual. Max dove into the water again, paddling strongly, his head bobbing above the rippling surface. That's when the water seemed to shift, unnaturally, like the surface itself had shuddered. At first no one noticed. The children clapped, urging Max to hurry back, unaware of the dark shadow gliding silently just below him. But Daniel's eyes caught it, the massive shape, the ripple of scales, the flash of jagged ridges breaking the surface for a heartbeat before sinking back. "Max, come back!" Daniel shouted, panic cracking his voice. The shepherd turned his head, ears flicking at the urgency in his master's tone. He swam harder, paws thrashing, but the shadow surged faster. Then, in a terrifying instant, the water erupted. A monstrous crocodile, easily over 15 feet long, launched upward with a spray of mud and foam. Its jaws snapped shut with a deafening crack of bone and teeth, missing Max by inches but sending a wave that nearly toppled him under. The children screamed. Someone dropped a fishing pole. Max yelped, scrambling to escape the sudden wall of scales and teeth. "Get away from the water!" Daniel yelled, ushering the younger kids back. But Max was still in the river, fighting the current stirred by the crocodile's violent thrashing. The beast turned, its yellow eyes fixed on the shepherd like a predator locked on prey. It lunged again, mouth gaping wide enough to swallow Max whole. Daniel didn't think, he acted. He bolted toward the dock, heart hammering, desperate to save his dog. "Daniel, no!" cried Marcus, his best friend and the eldest of the group, but it was too late. Daniel had already leapt onto the dock, scanning frantically for anything he could use. His hands closed around a heavy oar left behind by a fisherman. Max yelped again as the crocodile's tail whipped the water, sending a shockwave that pushed him closer to the jaws. Daniel's stomach dropped. He sprinted to the edge of the dock, gripping the oar like a weapon. "Hang on, boy," he shouted. The crocodile lunged, water exploding in every direction. At the last second, Daniel swung the oar with every ounce of strength. The wooden blade cracked against the crocodile's snout. A thunderous growl reverberated from the monster's throat as it recoiled, thrashing angrily. "Get out of there, Max!" Marcus shouted from the bank, waving his arms wildly to distract the beast. The German shepherd scrambled, paws clawing through the water, but the current pulled against him. The crocodile, enraged, turned again, jaws snapping shut only a foot away. Then came Sarah, fierce, determined, and fearless in the way only she could be. She had grown up wrestling with challenges, the kind of person who never hesitated when others froze. She grabbed the length of rope coiled near the dock and tossed one end to Daniel. "Go get him," she yelled. "We'll pull you both back." Daniel looped the rope around his waist without a second thought and dove straight into the swamp. The water was murky, heavy, suffocating, but all he could see was Max, struggling, eyes wide with fear. The crocodile noticed him instantly. It veered from the dog, sensing easier prey in the boy who had plunged into its domain. Its massive tail churned the water as it surged forward. Daniel reached Max just in time, grabbing the shepherd's wet collar and hauling him close. "I've got you," he gasped, though his chest burned with terror. On the dock, Marcus and Sarah braced themselves, wrapping the rope around a piling. "Pull!" Marcus bellowed. Together, they hauled with everything they had, muscles straining, dragging Daniel and Max closer inch by agonizing inch. But the crocodile was faster. It lunged, jaws wide, teeth gleaming like ivory daggers. Daniel twisted, shoving Max behind him, and kicked out with his foot. Pain exploded through his leg as the teeth grazed him, tearing through fabric and skin. He screamed, but he didn't let go of Max. From the bank, others scrambled for weapons, rocks, sticks, anything. Marcus snatched up a rusted harpoon left from an old fishing expedition and hurled it with a roar. The weapon struck the crocodile's side, glancing off thick scales but startling the beast enough to make it thrash sideways. Sarah seized the moment, yanking the rope with ferocious determination. Daniel and Max were dragged onto the muddy bank, gasping, soaked, and bleeding. Max collapsed at Daniel's side, trembling, water streaming from his fur. But it wasn't over. The crocodile, furious at being denied its prey, hauled itself halfway onto the shore, its bulk heaving, tail sweeping with devastating force. The ground shook as the beast hissed, jaws gaping. It was monstrous, larger than any they had imagined, a living nightmare risen from the swamp. "Run!" someone cried. But Daniel staggered to his feet, Max leaning against him. He wasn't going to run. Not while this thing threatened them all. "No," he rasped, gripping the oar again, knuckles white. "We end this now." Marcus joined him, grabbing a heavy branch. Sarah armed herself with a rusted machete they kept for clearing brush. They exchanged one look, fear, resolve, and a bond forged in desperation, and faced the monster together. The crocodile surged forward, tail smashing into a log and sending splinters flying. Its jaws snapped shut, missing Marcus by mere inches. He swung the branch, striking its eye ridge, but the beast barely flinched. Sarah darted in, slashing at its side. The blade scraped scales, leaving only a shallow cut. Daniel, adrenaline fueling him, charged and smashed the oar against the croc's head. The wood cracked, splintering, but the blow dazed the monster for a split second. It bellowed, thrashing violently, tail lashing. The battle raged, children screaming, water spraying, mud flying. Again and again, the heroes struck, driven not by glory but by the desperate need to protect their friend, their dog, their family. Max barked weakly from behind them, as if lending them his spirit. Finally, Marcus spotted the harpoon, half buried in the mud. He dove, grabbed it, and with a primal cry, drove it into the softer flesh just beneath the crocodile's jaw. This time, the weapon sank deep. The monster roared, thrashing in agony, blood mingling with the swamp water. Seizing the chance, Sarah slashed again, aiming for the same wound, and Daniel struck with the broken shaft of the oar. Together, their combined assault forced the beast back, inch by inch, until with one final, furious thrash, it retreated into the depths, vanishing beneath the swirling water. The swamp fell eerily silent. The three stood panting, dripping, bodies bruised and cut, but alive. Max whined softly, licking Daniel's hand as if to say thank you. Daniel collapsed beside him, burying his face in the shepherd's wet fur, tears mixing with mud and sweat. "We did it," Sarah whispered, almost in disbelief. Marcus dropped the harpoon and sat heavily on the ground. "We actually did it." For a long moment, none of them spoke. The cicadas buzzed again, the birds cautiously resumed their calls, and the swamp seemed to breathe once more. The nightmare had passed, but its shadow would remain forever etched in their memories. Daniel pressed his forehead against Max's. "You're safe now," he murmured. "I've got you." Always. And though the scars, both theirs and Max's, would take time to heal, the bond between them, forged in that harrowing battle against the giant crocodile, was stronger than ever. They weren't just friends anymore. They were heroes, brave souls who had faced the impossible together, all for the life of one loyal German shepherd. The story of that day spread quickly. Some called it reckless, others called it miraculous. But those who had been there knew the truth. It wasn't luck, nor madness. It was love, love for a dog who had given them his loyalty, and in return, they had given everything to save him. And in Clearwater Swamp, whenever the waters rippled strangely or a shadow drifted just beneath the surface, people remembered. They remembered the roar, the thrashing, the courage, and the day the brave heroes battled a giant crocodile to save a German shepherd's life.